Swaay.Health.
Hey everyone, I'm John Lind, the founder of Swaay.Health, and we're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in healthcare marketing. And our guest today is Kathryn Wickenhauser. She's Chief Strategy Officer at DirectTrust. Welcome, Kathryn.
Hi, John.
Excited to have you on the show. Congrats to you and your team. You came home with a lot of hardware. I mean, multiple wins from the Sway Health Awards. So we're going to talk a bit about that. But before we go there, tell us about yourself and DirectTrust.
Sure. So I'm Kathryn Wickenhauser, Chief Strategy Officer at DirectTrust. Been at DirectTrust since 2019, started more in a marketing communications capacity and then transitioned to Chief Strategy Officer about a year and a half ago. And DirectTrust is a nonprofit all about establishing trust in health technology and scaling that trust. So we primarily do that in two ways. One is supporting identity verified and secure communication, especially for healthcare. And then the other way is independent accreditation of health technology.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think what's interesting is you're a nonprofit. We're going to talk a bit about that,
Yep.
but you also have accreditations, you have
Mhm.
interoperability solutions, you have a tough challenge to market. So it's going to be fun to hear your perspectives, but let's
Sure.
talk about your awards. What did it mean for your team to win the Article of the Year and also the Marketing Team of the Year Sway Health 2025 award?
Yeah, I think for us, it felt obviously really good. It was validating. So, for the article of the year, our president and CEO wrote an article about why facilitated fire will succeed and based that on our experience in interop with direct secure messaging. So, some might look at these as possibly competing mechanisms, but really, I think direct trust, especially as a nonprofit, we're team interop, right? You hear us say that. We've said that over the years. We're really about collaboration and convening for a common good, which is all about advancing interoperability. So I think that article was especially meaningful because it showed and was a tangible piece to show that we are supportive of advancing interoperability as a whole. And facilitated fire will take a little bit to take hold, and direct secure messaging is still here and will still exist while that continues to grow. So I think that was meaningful. On the flip side, we're a small team. So Direct Trust on the whole as a nonprofit is essentially a small team. And our marketing and communications team is multifaceted. So we have some team members who are employed directly by Direct Trust, and then a lot of contractors and an agency who all come together to support the work of our organization. And I personally feel like the team works together really, really well. And we really came together when ENAC merged into Direct Trust in 2023. So this had been a couple of years into us finessing the process and really coming to understand each other and how to work together. And so that felt incredible. It was a great kind of pat on the back for our team and a great recognition.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just described a nonprofit, right? Like smaller teams with
Yep.
contractors that are part of your team and as invested in the nonprofit vision as anyone else, right? And being able to bring those together is a challenge. So kudos to you. You mentioned team interop. I want to hear about that. Like,
Yeah.
how has that played out for you? I think it's like one of the coolest marketing initiatives in the sense of like it does bring together somewhat competing organizations, but
Mhm.
the idea of like, hey, we have a common goal, which is helping patients, helping doctors get the information they need to provide the care in the right place. So, I mean, I love my Team Interop shirt. I wear it
Yeah.
around, that. Like, but tell me about how that came together and how that's impacted your organization.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's really something that's bigger than direct trust, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
So, from our perspective, we're all about collaboration, as I said. And I think we recognize that there's many different ways to get to our common goal of advancing interoperability. And if we compare that today to our world, think about how many different ways we communicate. So we're on Zoom right now talking. We might have Slack or instant messaging. We have email, we have texting, we have phone calls. We have all these different ways that we communicate. And healthcare is not really any different. But when we need to move standardized information, how do we do that? What are the mechanisms that we do that? And I think Team Interop was really about recognizing that there are different methods for different reasons and to celebrate that. There is no one method to rule them all. And that's okay. And we should lean into that. And we should really think about expanding and promoting the right use of exchange modalities as they're appropriate. So that's really what it was all about. And I think, you mentioned competitors. We don't necessarily see them as competitors. We see them as peer organizations. And it was really about embracing that idea of, okay, what are the next challenges that we need to solve in our own organizations, interoperability broadly, and how do we work together to do that? There's a lot of overlap in these communities as well. So Team Interop was all about celebrating that. And I think it is truly this feeling and this movement that's lived on. It wasn't necessarily meant to be tied to direct trust while we initiated it. I think it really was about celebrating the bigger picture and building that sense of community and working together, which I would argue, and I've argued multiple times, that I think with a changing political environment is probably even more important now than ever as we look to industry to solve more problems.
Yeah. No, I love it. It does bring people together in a certain way. I've heard it multiple times at different conferences, which is, credit to you and your team to, putting it out there that people, they kind of acknowledge the fact like, hey, there are some competing priorities on, on
Mhm.
occasion, but the reality is we just need to move the data for the
Yeah.
patient, for the
Yeah.
doctor. So I love that. How is a marketing team at a nonprofit different than maybe other marketing teams? I know you've worked at a few other industry ones as well.
Mhm.
So, how is it different and what are some of the things that you've seen are key to make it effective?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's a lot of similarities, regardless of nonprofit or not nonprofit. But overall, I think the key differences that I've noticed, um, it's a lot of doing more with less. It's a
Mm,
lot of considering priorities and then having to adjust priorities and goals or wish lists based on where you're at. You're not really at a nonprofit. You're not getting an influx of capital coming from anywhere. It's really about your operating budget and what you have and how you maximize that. And I think for me, one of my favorite parts has been really considering for our members, what are the things that we do that benefit the members of Direct Trust and then the
mm,
broader community that's using Direct Trust, Direct Secure Messaging, Direct Trust accreditation, et cetera. So the great thing about our team is that they've really embraced that as well. So even though they may work with multiple clients, in their contracting roles, they really embody the direct trust values and our brand, and they make sure that that shines through in everything that we do.
yeah. No, I think it's interesting to think about it. Even my own experience working, like a vendor is like, what's the ROI? How am I
Mhm.
driving the ROI? Whereas working with someone like you're like, what's the ROI to our members, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
how is this going to impact our members and how is it going to benefit them? I think that is a subtle difference as far
Mhm.
as the, how you evaluate the value that's being added. Yeah, it's really interesting. What would you say are some of the keys to having a great marketing team and that was worthy of the award?
Yeah. So for us, there were a couple of things that stand out. One, we inherited part of this team when we did this
Mhm.
merger and ENAC merged into Direct Trust in 2023. And so very quickly we were thrown into this brand alignment exercise. And it almost was, okay, we just have to work together and we have to figure this out. And that came with 2 weeks notice to
Wow.
the marketing team. So they really didn't have a lot of time. It kind of was like, okay, here you go. And this is what we're doing. Um, Once we got through that, there was a lot of, okay, what did we learn from that exercise? It was kind of neat to do that first because we learned a little bit about working styles, what worked, what didn't. And one of the things we did at that point was we instituted a project management system. And for the most part, I would say that 95% of our communication flows through that project management system. And we've trained the rest of the organization to know that if they need something from marketing and communications, it has to go there. This team is foundational to everything that Direct Trust does. It touches every part of the organization. It members, other organizations, et cetera, interact with our marketing and communications team too. So it was really important that we get out of email and into a centralized place that we could really manage and see all the requests that were coming in and that everybody had insight into what was happening. And so I think that piece in particular allowed other projects, like we did a digital badging campaign in 2024 where we introduced these new essentially electronic badges that you can click on and you can see that an accreditation is valid and that something is valid instead of a paper certificate that might just hang on your wall. And things like that that have a lot of different steps, a lot of different pieces, a lot of people involved, a lot of different actions, timelines that are dependent on each other. That tool really helped. And then I think above and beyond that, this team is really good about recognizing the values and the goals of the organization. They were great at creating their own goals to support ultimately what DirectTrust is trying to accomplish this year. And they're really great about identifying opportunities and saying, hey, well, what if we did this? And let me take that on. And I think just overall, there's a very positive environment and experience. And a lot of that is driven by just the awesome personalities and awesome capability of this team.
Mhm. Yeah, the bad egg can ruin it, right? You have to be careful on that. That's great though. It's interesting you mentioned the tool. I facilitated the tools unconference at the conference at Swaay.Health Live this year, and it was interesting how many people mentioned a project tool. Which tool are you using? And it's interesting. Like I was kind of, my eyes were open to how impactful that was for
Yeah.
so many healthcare marketing organizations.
Sure. So we use Asana
Hmm.
and I love it. I'm an Asana ambassador.
Hmm.
So I get a special
Well,
newsletter
you
and all
live,
these
breathe,
other
and sleep
things.
it. It sounds like.
Yeah. It really, the thing that I love about it is that it really does a great job of organizing thoughts and seeing the broader context. So for me, I'm a pretty visual person. And sometimes when you're in the zone in email, you can't really zoom out and see how other things impact each other. And so this tool allows us just to be more organized on the whole. But the other thing that I love about it, having used Asana now for I think 4 years, is that um, they're constantly evolving. They're rolling out new features. They're
Mm,
listening to their customers. It is not stagnant. I would say every single month there's a new feature or new thing that they've enabled. So recently, AI trends, there's more AI embedded in Asana. And so I've used it even to look and say, okay, I was out on vacation last week. What did I miss? And for it to
wow.
highlight and summarize the key points. And it's really helpful. Just even being able to dive into a specific task or project and get an overall sense of where it's at without having to ask a person, hey, give me an update on this.
Mhm.
And also not have it clutter up your inbox. At any point, you can just go into something and see, okay, this is where it's at and have a better understanding of it. So that's the tool we use. I've used other tools through other organizations as well. I'm still happy with our choice of Asana. So happy to talk to anybody about it too and how we use it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
So you host your own conference, which is a big undertaking, as we know, hosting a conference as well. What have you learned about conferences by hosting the Direct Trust conference?
Sure. So we have done some version of a conference every year since 2019, and we've done different forms. So 2019 in person, members only meeting 1 day. 2020, of course, like everybody else, we pivoted to
Virtual.
virtual. And 2021 did the same thing. 2023, we actually partnered on an in-person and virtual conference. It was a hybrid conference with our peers at Civitas Networks for Health because our membership overlaps so much. And that was new and exciting and quite a lot of attendees. And so that provided a lot of learning and I think a great experience with hosting conferences. And then 2023, we had the merger of ENAC into DirectTrust, and that was a big undertaking. So we did not do our traditional conference. Instead, what we did was we partnered with another organization and we did a virtual summit of a day, and it was free due to sponsorship support. And so it reached a ton of people who maybe are not the typical attendees at these conferences because it was free. So we saw more of the clinician community, more of just the clinical community in general, support staff, others, people who are not necessarily the same people that we see in person at these conferences all
Mhm.
the time. And then last year we did our in-person conference, just us of Direct Trust, multiple days, and we're doing that again this year. And I think the big thing that I would say that I've learned, and maybe not learned, but has been validated, is to really consider, what are our goals? What are we trying to achieve, and how do we best achieve that? So for that virtual summit, it was a goal to reach a broader community. And so the conference being free and virtual was really important to making that happen because it could reach so many more people that way. For our in-person event, a key piece of DirectTrust's history and who we are is being a convener and collaboration. And there's a certain magic, I think, that we can all say that happens in person when we get people together and when we're really focused on it, on solving a problem. And I saw this in person last year at our event. We had a CISO roundtable, so chief information security officers, those interested in cybersecurity, et cetera. And we did a tabletop exercise. And there were probably about 30, 35 people in the room broken up into teams. And these are incredibly important people to their organizations, right? And for over an hour, nobody picked up their phone, nobody looked at their phone. And so for me, I think the thing that I walked away with is how do we emulate more of that in our conferences? And that is the magic of convening and collaboration and bringing people together. So that is what we're doing this year at this year's event is we're really leaning into any breakout session is participatory. It's collaborative. It's coming together to solve problems and take collective wisdom, use collective wisdom from all the people, not just someone who might be up on stage presenting. So I think that is really what I would say we've learned from doing these conferences is to kind of reevaluate, center what the goals are, and then think how do we best achieve that? And things may change over time. We may try different things and experiment with other things, but ultimately I do think there is quite a magic to bringing people together. And I love the idea of things like unconferences or participatory sessions. People like connecting with other people. And
Yeah.
how do we best facilitate that at our events? Is it, through the food, through networking? It's not just the education. The magic really happens in those sessions outside of the education too.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you had a couple sessions that were pretty spicy as far as there was a referral one,
Yeah.
that where the EHR vendors that were competitors were on stage together, which interestingly now you see that in the marketing of the EHR vendors that they're doing this and they have this offering available. But I think what's nice is at a smaller event like that you get to see the same people multiple times. So
Hmm.
you see them once at a meal, you see them once at the party, you see them on stage, and that changes how you look at that person and the conversation that you can have with that person. So, whereas like at hymns, they're off running to their meeting, you're running to your meeting, you're not going to see
Yeah,
them again. You probably aren't going to see them a second time. If you do, it might just be two times, like whereas a smaller event, you see them three, four, five, six times. And so you're like, okay, I can really dive deeper into the conversation. So I think that's
for
interesting.
sure. Yeah, and so our COO, Kelly Gwen, and I went to Swaay.Health in Atlanta, not this past year, but the year before. And I remember we both left and we talked about how awesome it felt to connect with people. Just the size of the event allowed that. And I think exactly what you're saying, you come in and you meet new people and you actually leave as friends.
Mhm.
You get that meaningful connection time. And that was a big piece of feedback from our event last year was that the size was right. There's a time and place for big events like hymns, like Vive, like
Yeah.
others. But there's also a really significant place for doing the work, and that happens kind of in a smaller setting where you can connect more meaningfully, deeper for, longer periods of time. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit,
Mhm.
which of your marketing efforts have you found most effective? Is it content, social, SEO, conferences? Like
Yeah.
there's this, buffet of things that we could choose from. What do you see as most effective?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think things have changed over time too, I
Mhm.
would say. And probably if you ask my team, they would say different things too. But
That's
over
interesting.
the over the past year, we have really leaned into streamlining our social content and making sure that it is valuable, and then also our blog content. I think we see this with AI now too, that AI is obviously looking for more content and is serving content up in various ways. And so the team made the decision that putting out more substantial blog posts about what exactly we're up to in our work groups, our consensus bodies, our development at DirectTrust was really helpful, not just as an educational piece, but also as a tool to feed AI, because so many more people are getting information that way too. And having that out there, I think, is very helpful. So I would say, if you ask me, I would say between those two things. So LinkedIn content and then also significant blog content too.
Yeah. It's amazing how LinkedIn's grown in power and influence, especially in
Yes.
the B2B space. But you're right. I love the idea of kind of pillar content, right? As opposed to volume of content, which is what a
Mhm.
lot of people were approaching, a couple of years ago, really making it more substantial.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah, you mentioned AI a few times, and I think we have to ask at least one AI question every video these days. But how do you is AI affecting and kind of impacting your marketing efforts?
Yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing is that we are now considering the access to information is different than it has been before. People may not be hitting our website to get information. And we've actually seen it on our team where we use AI for several things. And when we go out and we search for information, when we're trying to get background information, it's oddly satisfying when information comes back from our website or from a blog, or we get other information that's about direct trust. For so long, I think direct trust has kind of been invisible. It's just been part of the fabric of how interop has kind of worked. And the team has worked really hard to kind of elevate that visibility. And overall, I would say that that was key in us producing some of that more substantial content was consideration that it may be served up by people going to AI and searching for background on different things like identity and what is IAL2 and what does that mean and all of those different things. So being able to consider that there's a different way the information is being accessed and used is really helpful for us as we develop that content to begin with. And then it's just another way that we use the content, right? So we still push it out through our normal channels. We educate our community, but it's also nice to know that it may reach others as well.
Yeah. It's funny you have a similar approach to what we do on Healthcare IT Today, where it's like, hey, if I show up in 10 searches for people for health IT information, then they're going to probably be like, this is vendors for us, right? Like, then they're probably like, I should advertise on Healthcare IT Today or do something with them because
Yeah.
they're obviously prominent. Now it's shifted to where it's like, hey, if you show up in AI results multiple times, then I should probably sponsor you and advertise with you. And we've seen that. We had our first advertiser come through Gen AI, and you're like, oh, this is awesome, right? And it's the same thing for you. Like if DirectTrust shows up 10 times as the authority on secure exchange, identity, security, whatever, one of your
Mhm.
topic areas, it's like, oh, maybe we should be a member of this organization. They're obviously leading a leading thought leader in the space. So,
Mhm.
that's interesting that it applies the same way.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Kathryn, this is awesome, and appreciate you taking some time to talk with us and share some insights and perspectives. And congrats to you and the team on the article. Obviously, Scott, put together some great content there. I'm interested to see how that topic evolves, but
Mhm.
also, kudos to your team and you're bringing your team together the way you have. That obviously shows some great leadership on your part as well. So I
Thank
appreciate
you,
you sharing
John.
about it.
Yeah, and we love being part of the Swaay.Health community, and I think we've learned a lot being part of the community as well. So thank you to your team for continuing to collaborate and facilitate those connections as well.
Well, it's funny. You're a convener, we're a convener too, right?
Yep,
Like that's
exactly.
we both do the same thing. We just do it in the marketing space, so you do it in the interop and security identity space. So that's awesome. I appreciate your kind words, and I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare marketing content like this, be sure to check it out at Swaay.Health. Thanks, Kathryn.
Thanks, John.